As adults, Halloween can be one of the most enjoyable of holidays. The season allows for the one time of the year for adults of all backgrounds to dress up and transform into a different being altogether. It's a time to toss out the ordinary, forget the mundane job, and let loose by embracing the darker side of life. There's no shortage of gore-infused slasher flicks and monster movies either, and nearly all horror-themed video games are overflowing with blood and death, so mature lovers of terror have much to be thankful for. Yet adults rarely come to appreciate this holiday without first becoming acquainted with the macabre as a child. Yes, without family-friendly frights such as Hocus Pocus, Ghostbusters, and A Nightmare Before Christmas to anoint little ones into the festival of fear, there would be no Friday the 13th to graduate to. This is why I aim to highlight at least one horror title each year that even those who are scared of their own shadows may enjoy. This year, that game is the cartoonish brawler from Rareware, grabbed by the Ghoulies. In the mid-90s to the early 2000s, Rareware, it could be argued, were sitting atop the gaming throne as the best developer putting games on the market. After developing such classics as Battletoads, RC Pro-Am, and Jetpack, they struck gold in their partnership with Nintendo. Their first huge success with the company was the reinvention of the Mighty Ape in Donkey Kong Country. Later, history was made with one of the greatest first-person shooters to ever hit the scene in GoldenEye 007. The greatest property that they had ever built from the ground up, however, has to be Banjo Kazooie, a masterpiece of a platformer that was not only inspired by Super Mario 64, but exceeded it in many ways. Working with Nintendo, Rare seemingly could do no wrong, but that relationship soured just after the release of the Nintendo GameCube and Microsoft's Xbox. Rare wished to be purchased by the company, and Nintendo not only refused, but allowed Microsoft to purchase their shares of the stock and acquire Rareware outright. Fans of Microsoft were right to be excited, yet it didn't take long for it to become apparent that Rare's golden goose was slowly losing her luster. Grabbed by the Ghoulies was the first project to release under this new deal, promising enjoyable beat-em-up gameplay set in a haunted mansion filled with comical ghouls, skeletons, and other horrors. The game had promise. Horror-themed games don't have to be scary after all, as some of the best titles that feature such themes, Castlevania and Ghosts and Goblins, for example, contain very little frights and can be enjoyed by just about anyone. But that was before Resident Evil, and others created experiences that turned screams into dollars. Ghoulies follows a boy named Cooper who, while on a date with his girlfriend Amber, becomes lost in a storm in the middle of the woods. Seeking shelter, the duo come across the Grand Ghoul Haven Hall, a secluded mansion owned by the eccentric and nefarious Baron von Ghoul. The Baron, an aviation fanatic that is not welcoming of visitors to his humble abode, summons his minions to capture Amber in retaliation. Cooper musters the courage to venture into the hall to rescue the damsel in distress, despite that it is quite obvious that prior to this encounter the date was going anywhere but flawlessly. If this setup is familiar, you will have undoubtedly encountered it in any horror parody, or numerous actual chilling features. Rocky Horror Picture Show, for instance, has a newlywed couple finding shelter in a secluded castle, only to be subjected to the terrors of Dr. Frankenfurter. Banjo Kazooie even has a similar premise, of Banjo's sister being kidnapped by a dastardly witch and forcing the big brother into action. Ghoulies attempts to tap into those themes with varying success. Inside the manor, Cooper finds not just more monsters to destroy, but an eccentric cast of characters that are willing to aid him in overthrowing their proprietor. For example, there is Crivens, an elderly butler who runs at the sight of any ghoul or ghost, and Ma Suswill, a chef who produces a variety of stews of varying effects that give Cooper immense powers. The player will be relying on their assistance in battling the hundreds of foes that stand between him and his love interest. Problems begin to rear their ugly head when you first examine the structure of the game. Players have a large mansion to explore with countless things to destroy, items to collect, and monsters to eliminate. My initial thought was that this would progress much like Luigi's Mansion, allowing the player to poke around, explore at their leisure, and try to make it out of this horror abode intact. Instead, players move about Ghoulhaven Manor in a very linear fashion. Rooms are blocked off until the player completes a small challenge present in each room, and may only progress through the manor in the order the developers have permitted. The challenges in these rooms range from defeating all enemies, to only defeating certain types of monsters, to not being hit at all, or finding the hidden item. Cooper's health, weapons available, and enemies confronted are different in each room, giving the semblance of varied gameplay. But that, my friends, is only an illusion. Ultimately, the goal in any room is to bash things, slay fiends, and survive. Even if the objective changes, the gameplay remains almost identical. The fact that the health and items change does little to spice up this bland dish. Combat is simple, and handled decently at least. Players control Cooper in a 3D environment, pointing the right stick in the direction that they want him to attack in, and Cooper will take to battle. Holding in the stick will power Cooper up for a devastating power attack, often a drop kick or elbow drop, as if he is on the roster of the WWE, while quickly pushing the stick will send him into a flurry of swipes and kicks. There are some interesting weaponry that Cooper gains access to. Aside from the chairs, frying pans, brooms, and other items that one can pick up to bash in the heads of the ghouls, Cooper can pick up special materials to aid him in laying waste to his foes. The candle, for example, can burn enemies that are vulnerable to fire. Ol Edna is a brass gun that fires garlic cloves that can eliminate dreaded chicken vampires. There is even a squirt gun filled with holy water that saps away the health of the undead. These are the best parts of the game, and it is a shame that they are often available only in one room before they are snatched away from the player by the helpful attendants of the mansion. I thought that they were to aid the player in overthrowing the Baron, but perhaps I was deceived. The one area that makes Ghoulies climb the ladder a bit in the scare department are the small jump scare sections. While they can give the player a quick jolt of fright, they are perhaps the worst sections to the player. Here, the camera walks about a room, often down a hallway from a first-person perspective. Eventually, something will jump out and send Cooper into a fright, and the player must complete a quick-time event in order to have Cooper regain his composure. These are simple, boring areas of the game that may entertain and frighten small children, but that's about it. Ghoulies isn't the best-looking game, even on the HD remaster. Rareware has proven time and time again that they can make some of the most beautiful games on the market. Don't believe me? Donkey Kong Country pushed the limits of 3D animation on the Super Nintendo. Perfect Dark rivaled the PC in its lighting effects for the time on the Nintendo 64. And the Xbox remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day is perhaps the console's most impressive looking title. Ghoulies feels cheap, and that's not just the art direction. Colors seem dulled, and do not allow the cartoonish game world to fully come to life. The animations during gameplay are decent, and do bring a lot of character to the cast. Yet this is wasted on frequent, minimalistic cutscenes which play out like moving pictures in a graphic novel. Sound design is also not up to par. What worked on the Nintendo 64 with Banjo Kazooie doesn't on the Xbox. characters speak only in grunts and moans, and while banjos had charm behind their noises, the inhabitants of Ghoulhaven Manor are just annoying. Enemies make just too much noise that it becomes boring to hear them rather than chilling, and Cooper's screams, from even the tamest of spooks, makes him one of the most annoying characters to ever take control of. Music is also composed in a MIDI-like format that honestly makes me think that they were rejected songs from Rare's earlier games. Composer Grant Kirkhope often does a wonderful job creating memorable tunes that last with the player long after the credits roll, but I honestly can't think of a single melody from Ghoulies, and I just played the thing. In the end, those already accustomed to frights and brawlers may wind up disappointed. The potential for fun is there. The setup for a good scare is present, but it's the horror equivalent of the killer tripping in a chase rather than the victim. For younger gamers, however, those that have not yet mastered the art of bashing in the heads of spooks and yearning for a good-natured chill up their spine, Ghoulies may provide pleasure. Just don't dive in thinking you're getting the next Banjo or Donkey Kong.